The stars looked different through the viewport of the Covenant's dawn. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the distant lights of Zenith Prime Station grow larger with each passing minute. 15 years of war had taught her many things, but the most important lesson was simple. Never trust an enemy who suddenly wants to be your friend. Admiral, we're receiving final docking clearance from the station, her communications officer reported from behind her. The young man's voice carried a hint of excitement that made Vasquez feel old and tired. He probably thought this peace conference would actually work. She turned away from the viewport and walked across the bridge. Her boots made soft sounds against the metal floor. Around her, the bridge crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. These were good people, trained soldiers who had survived the worst years of the HFY War. They deserved peace. Everyone deserved peace. But deserving something and getting it were two very different things. Maintain our position at the edge of the neutral zone, Vasquez ordered. Full combat readiness, but keep weapons powered down. I don't want to give them any excuse to call off these talks. Her first officer, Commander Robert Hayes, stepped closer and lowered his voice. Ma'am, the Human Assembly's orders were clear. We're supposed to show good faith by keeping the fleet at minimum alert status. Vasquez looked at him with tired eyes. The Assembly is 300 light years away, Commander. Out here I make the decisions that keep my people alive. If the HFY wanted good faith, they shouldn't have spent 15 years killing us. Hayes nodded slowly. He understood. They all understood, even if some of them wanted to believe in miracles. The door to the intelligence section slid open and Marcus Chen walked onto the bridge. He carried a data pad and his face wore the expression Vasquez had learned to dread over the past 5 years. It was the look that said he had found something bad. Admiral, we need to talk, Chen said quietly. Vasquez gestured toward her ready room. Commander Hayes, you have the bridge. Inside the small office attached to the bridge, Chen pulled up holographic displays that filled the air with data streams and trajectory plots. Vasquez studied them with a growing sense of unease. What am I looking at, Marcus? HFY fleet movements over the past 2 weeks, Chen explained, highlighting several clusters of red dots. According to the peace treaty protocols, they should be pulling back their military assets from the border zones. Instead, they're concentrating forces in 3 major staging areas. Vasquez leaned forward, studying the positions. Those staging areas form a triangle, and we're right in the middle. Yes, ma'am. Chen pulled up another display. There's more. Our listening posts have detected encrypted communications between HFY command vessels. The encryption is new, military grade, and the volume of traffic has increased by 300% in the last 72 hours. If they're really interested in peace, why change their encryption now? Vasquez asked, though she already knew the answer. Because they don't want us reading their messages, Chen said flatly. Admiral, I think this whole peace conference is a trap. Vasquez stood silent for a long moment, weighing everything she knew against everything she hoped. Hope was dangerous. Hope got people killed. But without hope, what was the point of any of this? Can you prove it? She asked finally. Chen shook his head. No concrete evidence. Just patterns, movements, and 30 years of experience telling me something is very wrong. Then we proceed as ordered, Vasquez decided. But we proceed carefully. Double the watch rotations. I want sensor sweeps running constantly, and get Captain Okonkwo up here. 20 minutes later, James Okonkwo stood in her ready room. The captain of the stealth frigate Silent Prayer was a tall man with dark skin and calculating eyes. He had earned his nickname Reaper during the Battle of Proxima Station, where his ship had destroyed 6 HFY cruisers in a single engagement. You wanted to see me, Admiral? Vasquez gestured to the displays still hovering in the air. What do you think of our HFY friends, Captain? Okonkwo studied the data for less than a minute before answering. I think they're planning to kill us all, ma'am. Elaborate. These fleet positions are textbook encirclement tactics, Okonkwo said, pointing to the red clusters. They're not demilitarizing. They're getting ready for a major offensive. And the timing of this peace conference is too convenient. They want our leadership in one place. My thoughts exactly, Vasquez agreed. I want the Silent Prayer and your stealth group positioned outside scanner range of the station. If this goes bad, you're our insurance policy. What are our rules of engagement, Admiral? Vasquez walked back to her viewport and looked at the station again. It was close now. A massive structure of metal and lights hanging in the darkness of space. Somewhere inside that station, the HFY were waiting. Were they really interested in peace, or were they sharpening their knives? If I transmit the code phrase Red Winter, you are authorized to engage with full force, she said. Target their command ships first. Break their communications. Make them hurt. Understood, ma'am. Okonkwo paused at the door. Admiral, why are we doing this? Why walk into what might be a trap? Vasquez considered the question carefully. Because maybe, just maybe, they really do want peace. Because the human assembly ordered us to try. And because if we don't try, the war continues and more people die. But Captain, we're going to try with our eyes open and our weapons ready. Okonkwo smiled grimly. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. That's very human of us. It's what keeps us alive. After Okonkwo left, Vasquez returned to the bridge. The Covenant's Dawn was approaching the docking port now. Through the viewports, she could see the sleek shapes of Kuvari vessels already moored at the station. Beautiful ships, she had to admit. Fast and deadly. Admiral, the diplomatic shuttle is ready, Hayes reported. Ambassador Kowalski and his team are waiting for you in the hangar. Vasquez nodded. Signal the fleet. All ships are to maintain combat readiness despite their current alert status. Captains are authorized to act independently if communications are disrupted, and make sure every ship knows the Red Winter Protocol. Ma'am, if the Kuvari detect our preparations, they'll see a fleet that's careful and professional, Vasquez interrupted. Not paranoid, just careful. There's a difference, Commander. Hayes didn't look convinced, but he followed his orders. Good man. Vasquez took one last look at her bridge, her ship, her people. Then she headed for the hangar bay. The diplomatic shuttle was small and unarmed, painted white with the symbols of peace on its hull. It looked fragile and helpless, but in the cargo bay of that shuttle, hidden inside containers marked as cultural gifts, were enough weapons to arm a small army. And every member of the diplomatic team had military training. Ambassador Kowalski himself had been a Marine colonel before joining the diplomatic corps. Humanity was going to this peace conference with olive branches in their hands and rifles on their backs. Because that was how humans survived in a galaxy full of predators. The shuttle launched from the Covenant's Dawn and flew toward Zenith Prime Station. Behind it, the human fleet waited in the darkness, watching and ready. Admiral Elena Vasquez sat in the passenger compartment and checked her sidearm one more time. It was hidden under her formal uniform jacket, a small plasma pistol that fit perfectly in her hand. She hoped she wouldn't need it. But hope was just hope. Preparation was survival. The diplomatic chamber of Zenith Prime Station was designed to impress. The ceiling stretched high above, covered in displays that showed peaceful scenes from 100 different worlds. Soft light filtered through crystalline panels, and the air smelled faintly of something floral that the station's designers thought would calm everyone down. Admiral Vasquez didn't feel calm. She felt like a mouse walking into a cat's den. The Kuvari delegation entered from the opposite side of the chamber. They moved with grace, their six-limbed bodies flowing across the floor in a way that looked almost like dancing. At the center of their group walked Archon Velkaris, the leader of the Kuvari hegemony. He was tall even for his species, his carapace decorated with marks of rank and honor. Ambassador Kowalski stood to greet them. He was a broad man with silver hair and steady hands. Archon Velkaris, on behalf of humanity, I welcome you to these historic proceedings. May our words here today end the bloodshed between our peoples. Velkaris's mandibles clicked together in what the translation software rendered as a smile. Ambassador Kowalski, Admiral Vasquez. We come seeking peace after too many years of senseless war. The hegemony wishes only to live in harmony with your brave species. The words sounded good. Too good. Vasquez watched the Archon's eyes carefully. Kuvari had compound eyes that shifted colors based on their emotions. Right now, Velkaris's eyes showed calm blue patterns. But Marcus Chen had taught her to watch for the subtle underlayers, the hints of other colors hiding beneath the surface. There. A flash of orange deep in the eye pattern. Anticipation? Or was it excitement? The delegations took their seats at the massive circular table. For the next 3 hours, they talked about peace. The Kuvari proposed demilitarized zones. Humanity suggested joint scientific programs. Trade agreements were discussed. Prisoner exchanges were planned. It all sounded reasonable. That was what worried Vasquez most. During a recess, she found Marcus Chen in a small side room, where the intelligence team had set up their equipment. Lieutenant Sarah Park, a young analyst with sharp eyes, was bent over a console, her fingers flying across holographic controls. "Report," Vasquez said quietly. Chen pointed to a display showing communication patterns. "The Kuvari ships in orbit are talking to each other constantly. Military-grade encryption, just like I told you. The volume keeps increasing. What are they saying?" "Can't break the encryption in real time," Chen admitted. "But Park here found something interesting." The young lieutenant looked up, her face pale. "Admiral, I've been running pattern analysis on the encrypted signals. I can't read the content, but I can identify repeated phrases and code words. One phrase keeps appearing, 'Final Protocol.' It's been transmitted 63 times in the past hour. 'Final Protocol,'" Vasquez repeated. "That doesn't sound like peace talk terminology." Park pulled up another display. "There's more. Some of the communications include coordinate strings. I cross-referenced them with our fleet positions." She highlighted several points in space. "These coordinates match exactly where our ships are positioned." The room went very quiet. Vasquez felt cold despite the comfortable temperature of the station. "They're targeting our fleet," she said softly. "It looks that way, ma'am," Chen agreed. "And there's one more thing. About an hour ago, Kuvari energy signatures around the station changed. My guess is they've activated hidden weapon systems." Vasquez made her decision. "Lieutenant Park, send an encrypted burst transmission to Captain Okonkwo. Code phrase, Red Winter. Make it look like normal diplomatic traffic." "Yes, ma'am." Park's fingers danced across her controls. Chen stepped closer. "Admiral, if you're wrong about this, then I'll face the consequences," Vasquez cut him off. "But if I'm right and I do nothing, we all die. I can live with being wrong and embarrassed. I can't live with being right and dead." The transmission went out. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the station, James Okonkwo would receive it and prepare for war. Vasquez returned to the diplomatic chamber for the second session. She noticed things now that she had missed before. The Kuvari security personnel stationed around the room had moved to better positions, blocking the exits. More guards had appeared, though they tried to look casual about it. Velkaris was speaking about the economic benefits of peace. His voice was smooth and confident. Too confident. Vasquez stood up suddenly. The room went quiet. "Archon Velkaris, I would like to speak with you privately," she said. Velkaris's eye patterns flickered with surprise, but he maintained his composure. "Of course, Admiral. Let us adjourn to the smaller conference room." They walked together down a corridor, accompanied only by their personal guards. The room they entered was simple, with just a table and a few chairs. Vasquez waited until the door closed before speaking. "Are you really interested in peace, Archon?" Velkaris tilted his head. "An unusual question, Admiral. Why would I be here if not for peace?" "I can think of several reasons," Vasquez said. "Gathering human leadership in one place would be valuable if you wanted to eliminate us all at once. And having our fleet concentrated here in neutral space would make a perfect target for an ambush." The Archon's eye patterns remained calm and blue, but Vasquez saw it again, that flash of orange deep inside. His mandibles clicked rapidly in what might have been laughter. "Admiral, you are remarkably suspicious for someone attending peace talks." "I'm remarkably alive because I'm suspicious," Vasquez corrected. "I've been fighting your people for 15 years, Archon. I know how you think. And everything about this situation feels wrong." Velkaris studied her for a long moment. "Your species is fascinating, Admiral. So paranoid, so aggressive, so unwilling to trust. Perhaps that is why you have survived against superior opponents. Is that a compliment or a threat? Perhaps both." The Archon moved toward the door. "Shall we return to the chamber? We have much more to discuss." As they walked back, Vasquez noticed more changes. Additional Kuvari personnel in the corridors. Subtle shifts in the station's ambient sounds as if systems were powering up. Her hand moved unconsciously toward her hidden sidearm. Ambassador Kowalski gave her a questioning look when she returned to her seat, but she shook her head slightly. "Not yet. Wait." The talks continued for another hour. Then the station's lights flickered. It happened so fast that most people didn't even notice. But Vasquez had been waiting for something, anything, and she saw it. The lights flickered, the air circulation changed pitch, and every Kuvari in the room shifted their stance. Then the doors sealed shut with a heavy metallic sound. Archon Velkaris stood slowly. His eye patterns had changed completely now, showing bright orange mixed with aggressive red. His mandibles spread wide in what was definitely not a smile. "Forgive me, Ambassador Kowalski, Admiral Vasquez, but we must conclude these talks earlier than planned." His voice was different now, colder and sharper. "You see, the hegemony has learned an important lesson during our war with humanity. You are dangerous. You are resilient. You refuse to accept defeat. Therefore, you must be eliminated completely and permanently." Around the chamber, Kuvari guards raised their weapons. Human security personnel reached for their sidearms, but they were outnumbered 3-1. "This station is now under hegemony military control," Velkaris continued. "Your fleet is surrounded by our forces and will soon be destroyed. And you, the leadership of humanity's military and diplomatic corps, will die here today. The war will end, but not with peace. With victory." Vasquez felt strangely calm. She had been right. Being right didn't make the situation better, but at least she knew where she stood. "You've made a serious mistake, Archon," she said quietly. "Have I? Your fleet is trapped and your leaders are my prisoners. What mistake have I made?" Vasquez smiled coldly. "You assumed humanity would trust you. We didn't. And now you're going to learn why that was a very bad assumption." Space around Zenith Prime Station erupted into chaos. The Kuvari fleet had been hiding in the dark, their ships powered down to minimal signatures, waiting for the signal. When that signal came, they lit up their engines and weapons simultaneously. Dozens of warships appeared on sensors where moments before there had been empty space. On the bridge of the Covenant's Dawn, Commander Hayes watched the tactical display fill with hostile contacts. His hands moved quickly across his controls, bringing the ship to full combat readiness. "All ships, battle stations. Deploy countermeasures and begin evasive maneuvers." His voice remained steady despite the fear in his gut. The Admiral had been right. She was always right about these things. The Kuvari opened fire first. Plasma bolts and missile swarms crossed the distance between the fleets, bright streaks of light against the darkness of space. The human ships scattered, their captains reacting with the speed that came from years of combat experience. The Covenant's Dawn shuddered as its shields absorbed the first impacts. Return fire lanced out from her weapons batteries. 2 Kuvari frigates exploded in brilliant flashes. "Contact from the Silent Prayer," the communications officer reported. "Captain Okonkwo reports Red Winter protocols active. Stealth group is engaging enemy command vessels." Hayes allowed himself a tight smile. At least something was going according to plan. Far above the main battle, the Silent Prayer and her sister ships dropped their stealth fields and struck. They had been positioned specifically for this possibility, hidden in the debris field of an old destroyed station. The Kuvari had never detected them. Captain Okonkwo watched his tactical display with cold satisfaction as his weapons locked onto a Kuvari command carrier. "Fire all tubes. Give them everything we've got." The Silent Prayer's missile bays opened and 30 guided warheads streaked toward their target. The Kuvari carrier tried to evade, but it was too massive to dodge effectively. Explosions blossomed across its hull, tearing through armor and into the vital systems beneath. "Target neutralized," his weapons officer reported, moving to next command ship. "Good hunting," Okonkwo said quietly. Around him, his stealth group was doing the same, systematically destroying the Kuvari's command and control infrastructure. Inside Zenith Prime Station, the situation was equally desperate. The moment Archon Velkaris revealed the betrayal, Ambassador Kowalski moved. He was old, yes, and he spent most of his time at diplomatic functions now. But he had been a Marine colonel once, and some things you never forgot. His hand shot out and grabbed the nearest Kuvari guard's weapon, twisting it away with practiced efficiency. The plasma rifle discharged into the ceiling. Kowalski brought his elbow down hard on the guard's carapace. Hearing something crack around the chamber, the human diplomatic team dropped their peaceful pretense and became what they really were: soldiers. Lieutenant Chen had a small EMP device hidden in his data pad. He activated it without hesitation. The pulse knocked out the Kuvari weapons in a 3-meter radius, buying precious seconds. Admiral Vasquez drew her hidden pistol and fired twice, dropping 2 guards who were aiming at Kowalski. "Everyone move. Get to the containers!" The containers that supposedly held cultural gifts and diplomatic documents were scattered around the chamber. Human security personnel reached them first, breaking open the magnetic seals. Inside were weapons. Lots of weapons. Assault rifles, armor vests, grenades, and ammunition. "How did you get weapons onto the station?" Velkaris demanded, his voice rising in anger. "This is a neutral zone. No weapons are permitted." Vasquez tossed a rifle to Kowalski and grabbed one for herself. We declare them as diplomatic materials. Cultural artifacts representing human history, which is technically true since guns are a big part of our culture. She fired at Velkaris, but the Archon was fast. He dodged behind cover as the plasma bolt scorched the wall where he had been standing. The Kuvari guards had recovered from their initial surprise and were returning fire. The chamber became a war zone. Furniture exploded into splinters. The beautiful displays on the ceiling shattered and rained down in sparkling fragments. Marcus Chen worked frantically at his portable terminal. "Admiral, I need 30 seconds. "You've got 20. Vasquez shouted back, firing another burst that forced 3 guards to take cover. Chen's fingers moved in a blur. Days ago, during the preliminary technical meetings, he had uploaded a virus into the station's computer systems. It had been dormant, waiting for activation. Now he triggered it. The station's internal defenses, designed to protect against boarding actions and riots, suddenly turned on the Kuvari. Blast doors slammed shut, cutting off their reinforcements. Emergency suppression systems activated, filling corridors with foam and gas. Life support in certain sections shut down. "Got it," Chen yelled triumphantly. "I have control of internal security systems. Can you get us to the communication hub?" Vasquez demanded. Chen checked his screens. "Yes, but it's 3 levels down and the route is crawling with hostile forces. Then we'll have to make a path." Vasquez turned to her people. "Listen up. We fight our way to the communication hub. Once we get there, we broadcast everything. Every species in this sector needs to know the Kuvari betrayed peace talks. Move out!" They advanced through the station in a tight formation. Human security forces had trained for exactly this kind of scenario, moving through hostile territory with limited resources. The Kuvari had superior numbers, but humans had something else: desperation and anger. Lieutenant Sarah Park stayed close to Chen, protecting him while he manipulated the station's systems. She had never been in real combat before. Her hands shook as she held her rifle. But when a Kuvari soldier appeared in front of her, she didn't hesitate. She fired and the soldier went down. "First time?" asked a grizzled sergeant named Martinez, taking position beside her. "Yes," Park admitted, her voice shaking. "You did good, kid. Keep doing that and you'll be fine." They reached an intersection and Chen directed them left. 3 more corridors and then down 2 levels via the maintenance shaft. A heavy weapons team of Kuvari appeared ahead, setting up a plasma cannon. That would cut through them in seconds. "Grenades," Vasquez ordered. 3 fragmentation grenades arced through the air. The Kuvari tried to scatter, but the confined space worked against them. The explosions were deafening, and when the smoke cleared, the way was open. Ambassador Kowalski paused to catch his breath. He wasn't young anymore, and the combat was taking its toll. But he kept moving because stopping meant dying. They descended through the maintenance shaft, a narrow tunnel filled with pipes and conduits. It was tight quarters and they had to move single file, vulnerable if they were caught. But Chen had sealed the access points behind them, buying time. The communication hub was a large room filled with transmitter equipment and computer banks. A dozen Kuvari technicians and guards were inside, working frantically. "Flashbangs. Then breach," Vasquez ordered. The grenades went in first, brilliant flashes of light and sound that left the Kuvari disoriented. Then the humans stormed in, weapons firing. It was over in seconds. Chen rushed to the main console and began working. "I need to bypass their lockouts and boost the signal to maximum range." "How long?" Vasquez asked, watching the door. 5 minutes, maybe less." "You've got 3, she said grimly. "They'll be coming fast now." Outside in the corridor, the sounds of running feet and shouting voices echoed closer. The Kuvari were converging on their position. Kowalski organized the defenses, placing their people at choke points and setting up the few remaining weapons they had. "Make every shot count. We just need to hold until Chen gets that broadcast out." The first wave of Kuvari hit them like a hammer. Plasma fire filled the corridor, forcing the humans back. Sergeant Martinez took a hit in the shoulder, but kept fighting. Another soldier, a young woman named Harrison, went down and didn't get up. "Chen," Vasquez yelled, "almost there. Just need to—" The console beeped and Chen's face lit up with triumph. "Got it, transmitting now on all frequencies." The broadcast went out across every communication channel in the sector. Video footage from Chen's hidden cameras showed the Kuvari betrayal in full detail. Velkaris' speech revealing the trap, the attack on the human delegation. Everything. And most importantly, The broadcast showed what the Kuvari had really been planning: the complete extermination of humanity under the cover of peace talks. Within minutes, every ship and station in the sector would see it. The neutral species would know what the Kuvari had done. The hegemony's reputation would be destroyed. But first, they had to survive. The Kuvari threw everything at the communication hub. Wave after wave of soldiers, not caring about casualties, just trying to overwhelm the human position through sheer numbers. Vasquez fired until her rifle overheated, then grabbed another one. Her people were falling, wounded or dead, and their ammunition was running low. Then, miraculously, the pressure eased. The Kuvari attacks became less coordinated, less aggressive. What's happening? Kowalski asked. Chen checked his console, accessing the station's external sensors. His face broke into a fierce grin. The fleet. Our ships are pushing through, and reinforcements are arriving. The broadcast worked. Other species are moving against the Kuvari. Admiral Vasquez allowed herself to lean against the wall, exhausted but alive. The battle in space had turned into something the Kuvari had never expected. A fight they were losing. Commander Hayes watched his tactical display with grim satisfaction as another Kuvari cruiser broke apart under concentrated fire from 3 human destroyers. The enemy had expected a quick, decisive victory. They had gotten a brutal slugging match instead. All ships focus fire on the carrier group, Hayes ordered. Don't let them reorganize. The Covenant's Dawn shuddered as it took another hit, but her shields held. The ship had been designed as a diplomatic vessel, at least on paper. In reality, she was something else entirely. Retracting external diplomatic modules, the engineering officer reported, deploying combat armor. All across the ship's hull, decorative panels fell away, revealing heavy ablative plating beneath. Weapon ports that had been hidden behind false bulkheads opened up. Within seconds, the graceful diplomatic vessel transformed into a pocket battleship, bristling with weapons. Fire all batteries, Hayes commanded. The Covenant's Dawn unleashed her full arsenal. Railguns accelerated tungsten penetrators to a fraction of light speed. Missile pods launched swarms of AI-guided warheads. Laser batteries carved burning lines across space. A Kuvari battlecruiser took the full barrage and simply came apart, its shields collapsing under the unexpected firepower. On the Kuvari flagship, Archon Velkaris watched the tactical situation deteriorate with growing horror. This was not how it was supposed to happen. The humans should have been helpless, their fleet scattered and confused by the ambush. How are they fighting back so effectively? He demanded. Their ships were on minimal alert status. His tactical officer's carapace was pale with stress. Archon, it appears they were never truly at minimal alert. Their weapons were powered down, but their crews were at battle stations. They were ready for this. Velkaris felt something he rarely experienced. Doubt. What about their diplomatic vessel? Surely that cannot pose a threat. Archon, the diplomatic vessel, is showing combat capabilities equal to a warship. It was disguised. They disguised a battleship as a diplomatic vessel. The Archon's mandibles clicked together in frustrated anger. These humans! They had come to peace talks prepared for war. What kind of species did such a thing? A dangerous one, he realized. The kind that survived. Deploy the reserve forces, Velkaris ordered. Signal all hegemony ships in adjacent sectors. We need reinforcements immediately. But then came news that made everything worse. Archon, we are detecting multiple new contacts entering the battle space. Vaxel Confederation ships, merchant guild vessels, even some Torvan war spheres. They are broadcasting that they will not tolerate the hegemony's betrayal of neutral peace talks. Velkaris felt the floor disappear from under him. The broadcast. That cursed human transmission had turned the entire sector against them. In another part of the battlefield, Captain Okonkwo prepared to execute the next phase of his plan. The Silent Prayer and her stealth group had done tremendous damage to the Kuvari command structure. But now it was time to get creative. Helm, take us into the debris field of that destroyed carrier, Okonkwo ordered. Weapons, prepare the package. The package was something humanity had developed specifically for this kind of warfare. EMP mines, thousands of them. Each one small and smart and very illegal under about 15 different treaty provisions. But those treaties assumed everyone was playing fair. The Kuvari had just demonstrated that playing fair got you killed. The Silent Prayer ghosted through the wreckage, deploying her cargo. The mines drifted into the Kuvari formation, their signatures lost in the noise of battle. Then on Okonkwo's signal they detonated. The electromagnetic pulses knocked out shields, sensors, and weapons across 24 Kuvari ships. They didn't destroy the vessels, but they left them blind and helpless. All ships focus on the disabled targets, Okonkwo broadcast on the fleet channel. Hit them before they recover. The human fleet pounced on the vulnerable enemies like wolves on wounded prey. It was brutal and efficient and completely without mercy. Back on the station, Admiral Vasquez watched the battle unfold through Chen's displays. The communication hub had become their fortress, and they were holding it against increasingly desperate Kuvari attacks. But something was changing. The attacks were getting weaker, less organized. The Kuvari soldiers seemed confused, uncertain. They're receiving orders to fall back, Chen reported, listening to intercepted communications. The Kuvari fleet is losing the battle. They're trying to retreat. Ambassador Kowalski, his formal clothes torn and burned, his face covered in soot, looked at Vasquez with exhaustion in his eyes. Do we let them go? Vasquez considered the question carefully. The tactician in her wanted to press the advantage, to destroy the enemy while they were vulnerable. But the strategist in her understood that sometimes you needed to let a beaten enemy escape. Let them run, she decided. But document everything. I want full sensor records of every ship that participated in this ambush. The galaxy needs to know exactly who was responsible. She opened a channel to the Covenant's Dawn. Commander Hayes, this is Admiral Vasquez. Status report. Hayes' voice came back, rough with fatigue but victorious. Admiral! Good to hear your voice. We've pushed the Kuvari fleet back. They're retreating to the jump points. Should we pursue? Negative. Let them go. Our priority is securing the station and recovering our people. How are our casualties? Heavy, ma'am. But we held the line. Every ship that was here at the start is still fighting. Vasquez felt pride swell in her chest. Her people. Her brave, paranoid, wonderful people who had prepared for the worst and survived because of it. Good work, Commander. Vasquez out. She turned to her team in the communication hub. They looked terrible, covered in wounds and exhaustion. But they were alive and they had won. Listen up, she said. We hold this position until the fleet secures the station. Chen, keep monitoring all communications. I want to know the second the Kuvari try anything else. Yes, ma'am, Chen replied. Sergeant Martinez, his shoulder badly burned but still functional thanks to emergency medical gel, spoke up. Admiral, permission to speak freely? Granted, Sergeant. You knew this would happen, didn't you? The trap, the ambush, all of it. Vasquez shook her head. I didn't know for certain. But I've been fighting long enough to recognize patterns. The Kuvari offered peace at a strange time, from a position where they could have kept fighting. It didn't make sense unless they were planning something. So you prepared for the worst, Lieutenant Park said quietly. I prepared for the likely, Vasquez corrected. In war, the worst-case scenario is usually what happens. Hope for peace, but plan for war. It's kept humanity alive this long. Ambassador Kowalski laughed, a tired but genuine sound. Do you know what the other species call us, Admiral? The paranoid apes. The species that trust no one. They think it's a weakness. Let them think that, Vasquez replied. Our paranoia just saved our lives. Outside, the sounds of fighting were fading. Human Marines were moving through the station, section by section, securing each area. The Kuvari defenders were surrendering or retreating to their ships. It took 6 more hours before the station was fully secured. The Covenant's Dawn docked, and Commander Hayes led a relief team to the communication hub. When Hayes saw the Admiral, alive and armed and still fighting, he saluted with genuine respect. Admiral, it's good to see you. It's good to be seen, Commander. Vasquez looked at her reflection in a shattered display panel. She looked old, tired, and absolutely done with this war. What's the final count? We lost 4 ships destroyed, 8 more heavily damaged. Casualties are in the thousands. Hayes paused. But the Kuvari lost 23 capital ships and twice that many smaller vessels. And more importantly, they lost something else. What? Their reputation. Every species in the sector saw what they tried to do. The hegemony is fracturing. 3 member species have already declared independence. The political damage might be worse than the military losses. Vasquez nodded slowly. And all because we brought weapons to a peace conference. All because you didn't trust them, ma'am, Hayes corrected. In the holding cells of the station, Archon Velcaris sat in darkness and contemplated his failure. His fleet was broken. His hegemony was collapsing, and it was all because of one thing. He had underestimated humanity. He had seen their desire for peace and mistaken it for weakness. He had thought that species that truly wanted peace would come to the table with open hands and trusting hearts. But humans were different. They wanted peace desperately, genuinely, but they had learned hard lessons in a dangerous galaxy. They had learned that trust without preparation was just another word for suicide. So they had come to the peace talks with hope in their hearts and weapons on their backs. Ready for the best outcome but prepared for the worst. And when the worst came, they were ready. Velkaris heard footsteps approaching his cell. The door opened and Admiral Vasquez stepped inside alone. She looked at him for a long moment before speaking. Why? Why did we betray the peace talks? Velkaris asked. Because humanity is dangerous. Because you fight like cornered animals. Because even when losing, you refuse to surrender. We believed the only way to have peace was to eliminate you completely. 3 weeks after the Battle of Zenith Prime, Admiral Elena Vasquez stood before the human assembly. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from every human colony and settlement, all watching her with expressions ranging from relief to horror. The chairman of the assembly, an elderly woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, spoke first. Admiral Vasquez, this assembly owes you an apology. We ordered you to attend those peace talks in good faith. We told you to trust the Kuvari. You disobeyed the spirit of our orders and prepared for war instead. Vasquez stood straight, ready to accept whatever judgment came. Yes, Madam Chairman, I did. And because of that disobedience, the human delegation survived. The fleet survived. Humanity survived. Dr. Chen paused, letting her words sink in. You were right to be paranoid, Admiral, and we were fools to forget what the galaxy has taught us again and again. The assembly chamber erupted in applause. Vasquez felt something tight in her chest loosen slightly. She hadn't realized how much she had been carrying until that moment. When the applause died down, Dr. Chen continued. Tell us, Admiral, what happened out there. Help us understand. Vasquez organized her thoughts carefully. The Kuvari hegemony saw our desire for peace as weakness. They believed that a species truly committed to peace would come to negotiations defenseless and trusting. They were wrong. She activated a holographic display that showed the battle in all its brutal detail. We came to those talks hoping desperately for peace. Every person on that delegation wanted the war to end. But we've learned through hard experience that hope without preparation is just wishful thinking. The display showed the Covenant's dawn, transforming from diplomatic vessel to warship. We disguised military assets as civilian ships. We hid weapons in diplomatic containers. We positioned stealth forces as insurance. And when the trap was sprung, we were ready. A representative from the Mars colony stood up. Admiral Summer saying you provoked this attack. That if you had truly shown good faith, the Kuvari might have honored the peace. Vasquez looked at him directly. Representative, do you really believe that? The Kuvari brought a fleet of warships to ambush us. They activated hidden weapons on a neutral station. They planned to execute our entire delegation and destroy our fleet. That level of preparation takes weeks or months of planning. This wasn't a reaction to our caution. This was premeditated genocide disguised as a peace conference. She pulled up intelligence reports showing the Kuvari fleet movements in the weeks before the conference. They were going to attack us regardless of what we did. The only question was whether we would survive. And we survived because we were prepared. Ambassador Kowalski, who had been invited to testify as well, stood up. If I may add something, Madam Chairman. Please, Ambassador. I spent 30 years in the diplomatic corps before this. I've negotiated treaties with dozens of species, and I've learned that real peace doesn't come from trust. It comes from mutual respect built on strength. The Kuvari didn't respect us because they thought we were weak. Now they respect us because they know we're dangerous. He gestured to the display showing the aftermath of the battle. Look at what happened after we exposed their betrayal. 3 hegemony member species declared independence. 5 more are negotiating new terms. The Kuvari Empire is fracturing not because we destroyed their fleet, but because we destroyed their reputation. We proved they couldn't be trusted and the galaxy saw it. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. What is the current status of the Kuvari hegemony? Vasquez pulled up the latest intelligence. In chaos, Madam Chairman. Archon Velkaris has been removed from power by his own people. The new leadership is divided between hardliners who want to continue the war and pragmatists who understand they can't win. Meanwhile, their former allies are abandoning them. And what about us? What is humanity's position now? Stronger than we've ever been, Vasquez said. Other species in the sector have approached us with offers of alliance. Not because they love us, but because they respect us. They saw what we did at Zenith Prime. They saw that humanity prepares for the worst while hoping for the best. That makes us reliable partners. A representative from Europa Station asked, Admiral, what do you recommend going forward? Do we pursue the war against the Kuvari? Vasquez considered the question carefully. No, we've won what we needed to win. The Kuvari are broken politically and militarily. Pursuing them now would just create more enemies and waste resources. Instead, we should do what we tried to do at Zenith Prime. Offer peace. But real peace from a position of strength. And if they refuse, then we're prepared for that too. The assembly session continued for hours with representatives asking questions and debating policy. But the fundamental decision had been made. Humanity would continue to seek peace. But never again would they go defenseless into negotiations. Later that night, Vasquez found Captain Okonkwo at a bar near the assembly complex. The captain was working on his third drink and staring at nothing in particular. Mind if I join you, Captain? Vasquez asked. Okonkwo gestured to the empty seat. You're buying, Admiral. She ordered 2 drinks and sat down. For a while, they just sat in comfortable silence. I keep thinking about all the people we lost, Okonkwo finally said. Thousands dead because we went to a peace conference. Thousands alive because we were prepared, Vasquez corrected gently. If we had gone in trusting and defenseless, everyone would have died. The entire delegation, the entire fleet. Instead, most of us survived. Is that supposed to make me feel better?
No. It's supposed to help you understand that we did the right thing.
War is terrible, Captain. People die. Good people, brave people. But our job isn't to avoid casualties. Our job is to make sure humanity survives. Okonkwo finished his drink. You know what the Kuvari call us now? The species that brings weapons to peace talks. Vasquez smiled. Good, let them remember that. Let every species in the galaxy know humanity wants peace genuinely and desperately. But we've learned our lesson. Hope is not a strategy. Trust must be earned, and peace is only possible when you're strong enough to defend it. That's a dark philosophy, Admiral. It's a survival philosophy, and it works. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy watched as the Kuvari hegemony continued to fracture. The new leadership reached out to humanity with genuine peace offers this time. Negotiated carefully and backed by real concessions. Humanity accepted. But the peace treaty was very different from what had been discussed at Zenith Prime. This one included mutual inspection protocols, demilitarized zones with neutral observers, and extensive trade agreements that gave both sides economic incentives to maintain peace. More importantly, it was negotiated by diplomats who had weapons in their holsters and warships in orbit overhead. Marcus Chen received a promotion and a new assignment, heading up the intelligence division that would monitor Kuvari compliance with the treaty. He took the job seriously, building a network of sources and sensors that would detect any future treachery. Lieutenant Sarah Park, the young analyst who had helped break the Kuvari codes, was given a commendation and a choice of assignments. She chose to stay with Chen's team, determined to make sure humanity was never caught off guard again. Ambassador Kowalski retired from active service, but he started a training program for diplomats that included combat training alongside negotiation skills. His motto became famous: speak softly and carry a big gun. Captain Okonkwo and the Silent Prayer were given a new mission: training other stealth units in the tactics that had worked so well at Zenith Prime. The fleet expanded its stealth capabilities, ensuring that humanity would always have hidden assets ready to respond. And Admiral Vasquez? She was promoted to Fleet Admiral and given command of all human military forces. Her first order was to establish a new doctrine. Every human ship, whether officially military or civilian, would have combat capabilities. Every diplomatic mission would include security forces. Every peace negotiation would be backed by strength. Some called it paranoid. Some called it aggressive. But everyone agreed it was effective. 6 months after Zenith Prime, Vasquez gave a speech to the graduating class of the Naval Academy. The young officers listened intently as she spoke. You're entering service at an interesting time, she told them. We're at peace or something close to it. The war with the Kuvari is over. We've established good relations with several other species. Trade is booming. Scientific cooperation is advancing. It's everything we hoped for. She paused, looking at their eager faces. But I want you to remember something important. We have this peace not because we trusted our enemies, but because we were prepared to fight them. We extended our hands in friendship while keeping our weapons ready. And when the betrayal came, we survived because we expected it. A young cadet raised her hand. Ma'am, isn't that cynical? Shouldn't we try to build a galaxy based on trust? Vasquez smiled. That's a good question. And here's my answer. Trust is earned over time through consistent behavior. Until it's earned, caution is wisdom, not cynicism. We hope for the best in others. We work toward cooperation and peace, but we prepare for the worst, because preparation is what keeps us alive to see that peace. She gestured to the stars visible through the Academy's windows.